Hey, what up, guys? Real quick, gonna do the January TV boxing schedule. There's not a lot to talk about, not a lot of action in January. January really isn't too busy of a month, but sometimes they'll surprise you and have a big fight or one big card. But so let's kick it off with like I said, the January 2020 TV boxing schedule. First weekend coming up, nothing going on. January 4th, this weekend coming up, but second weekend, we're going to kick it off, and we got action every weekend following. So, January 11th, you got two different cards going on. First up on ESPN, you got a big-time main event. There's the undercard's nothing to talk about. The main event's going to be good. You got light heavyweight action. My number 10 light heavyweight, former two-time world title challenger, Jesse Hart's taking on former world title challenger Joe Smith Jr. Crossroads fight right here. You know, winner's going to put his next step forward towards getting back in the title hunt. Should be a really good action fight right here. I'm really looking forward to it. Hart's a good boxer, puncher. Joe Smith's a big puncher. He's a hard-hitting guy. So, should be good action, light heavyweights. That's January 11th on ESPN. Then also on the 11th on DAZN, another one where the main event's really only worth talking about. The undercard's not going to be that great, but the main event's going to be good. Middleweight action. You got Jaime Munguia making his debut at 160 pounds middleweight, former junior middleweight champion, as he takes on former world title challenger Gary O'Sullivan, or Spike O'Sullivan. Again, another good action fight right here. This is Munguia's debut. O'Sullivan's a game veteran right here, and this should be a really good fight. That's on January 11th on DAZN. Make sure you're checking that out. I believe the DAZN card, the whole thing starts at 6, or at least the main portion, and the Jesse Hart card with Joe Smith on ESPN starts at 7 that day. Okay, so next up on January 18th, that weekend we only got one card to talk about on ESPN Plus, and really it's only the main event to talk about. Light heavyweight action. Former champion Leader Alvarez returns since his loss to Sergey Kovalev last year in their rematch, as he's going to take on little-known veteran Michael Seals of the United States. This should be a decent fight right here. For those two, light heavyweight action. Leader Alvarez trying to get back in the mix. So ESPN Plus should be decent. Make sure you're checking that out. Then on January 25th, we got one card on, it's either Fox or Showtime, but it's the return of Danny Garcia in the main event, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Well, no, we'll just talk about it now. The main event, Danny Garcia taking on Ivan Redkach, who's coming off the knockout win over Devin Alexander. Danny Garcia trying to just, keep himself busy, face a decent fighter ahead of what he's hoping to be Pacquiao or Mikey Garcia next, or even Errol Spence Jr. So Danny Garcia kind of a stay busy, but Redkach is a pretty decent welterweight coming off his career best win, knocking out former champ Devin Alexander. Should be a good fight right there. Danny Garcia fights are usually, you never want to miss those. They're pretty good action right there. The undercard sees undefeated the undercard's got Jarrett Hurd, the former unified world champion, returning to action after losing his titles last year when he takes on Francisco Santana. So that should be a good one right there. A good card on the 25th. But guys, I missed the card on the 18th. It's actually the main card on January 18th. It's going to see Julian J. Rock Williams returning since his win over Jarrett Hurd last year. He'll return to defend his unified title against Jason Rosario. So this should be pretty good action right here in that main event. That's going to be on Fox on January 18th. The undercard sees undefeated Chris Colbert, rising star in the 130-pound division, as he takes on former champ Jezreel Corrales. This should be a good fight right here. Corrales trying to get back in the mix of things at 130. It's for an interim title. And what's his name, Colbert trying to make a name for himself. So that should be a good fight. And like I said, January 25th, you have the Danny Garcia, Ivan Redkach, and Jarrett Hurd, Francisco Santana. But then the last card of the month, and the biggest one, is going to take place on DAZN, where we got a world title triple header and a lot of good action taking place here on this card. And all three title fights are world title fights on DAZN. It's during Super Bowl week. It's Thursday, January 30th. And it's going to see, first on the undercard, the unified super bantamweight world champion and my #1 super bantamweight in the world at 122, Daniel Roman, defends his 2 titles against undefeated Muradjan Akhmadaliyev. He's the WBA mandatory #1 contender. He's undefeated. He's only 7-0, but he's already worked himself into the mix somehow. And he's taking on Roman, who's the best fighter at 122 right now, in my opinion. You know, and it's going to be a good fight. Roman's coming off of 9-month action, so it should be a good one right here on the undercard. But then the co-feature, in my opinion, is the main event. This should be the main event. The co-features for the 130-pound super featherweight title, IBF title, as it sees Tevin Farmer, champion, take on Joseph Diaz Jr. These guys don't like each other. They've been trying to get in the ring for all of 2019. They were talking shit, trying to get into the ring with each other, and now they're finally going to lock horns. This is going to be a good fight right here, a toss-up. In my opinion, this is the fight of the month in terms of the best matchup, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a really good matchup right here, and I can't wait to see it. And then, then in the main event, you got the WBO middleweight title on the line. Undefeated champion Demetrius Andrade is taking on Englishman Luke Keeler, staying busy. I don't know if this is considered a mandatory fight or not, but it should be a good one, and I'm looking forward to it. That's Saturday, that's Thursday, January 30th on DAZN, a big triple header. Thursday night boxing, make sure you check it out. So, again, Jesse Hart, Joe Smith, ESPN, January 11th, Jaime Munguia, Spike O'Sullivan on DAZN, January 11th. Then on the 18th, you got 2 cards. You got Julian J. Rock Williams against Jason Rosario, and then Chris Colbert and Jezreel Corrales. That's on Fox. Over on ESPN Plus, you got Eliter Alvarez and Michael Seals. Then January 25th on Showtime, Danny Garcia against Ivan Redkach and Jarrett Hurd against Francisco Santana. And then January 30th on DAZN, big card on a Thursday night. You got Demetrius Andrade and Luke Keeler, Tevin Farmer and Joseph Diaz Jr., and Daniel Roman and Muradjan Akhmadaliyev on DAZN. That's going to be good, guys. So make sure you're checking out the boxing in January. Should be a solid month, even though it's not a very busy month. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. True Boxing, you've been here with the truth.